Hey everybody, good afternoon. It's a gorgeous Sunday afternoon. It's April 3rd and I have all my equipment painted, and I want to just give you a general rundown on what things look like and what the equipment is from the bottom all the way to the top, as though I were assembling a whole hive. Now, I'm no expert by any means, but I am learning, and certainly if there are some of you that are watching that are experts, please send me a note if I'm doing something incorrect. The first thing I want you to look at, come here babe, the first thing I want you to look at is my hive stand, and the opening is going to be right here facing that direction, and that's actually perfect southeast. This is going to be sitting in what we call dappled sunlight, so there'll be a little bit of filtered light that will come in through the tree, but they'll also catch that early morning sunlight to get them up and going first thing in the morning. Okay, so on top of the hive stand, I'm going to place the bottom board. Can you get your cup out of the way, honey? Here. Over there. Take your cup. Okay, here, we'll put that right here. We're going to put the bottom board. And the bottom board, notice, has a screen on it to keep out pests. There's also a sliding grid that goes in here that allows me to account for varroa mites if we ever have an infestation. And again, this is facing southeast. So the first thing I'll put on is the opening reducer. We're going to pretend that this is full on right now. And directly on top of this is going to go one of my deep hive bodies. And the hive body is where the queen will lay eggs and the workers will prepare honey. And as you can see, I've got my frames all set to go, and this is a plastic foundation with a layer of beeswax on it. These look skinny because they're 8-frame hives. Now when I first get my nucleus hive coming in on May 7th, I'm going to transfer the queen and all the other bees from that hive to the bottom deep, simply by removing the middle 5 frames and putting the frames in that the queen seller gives to me. And if that were the case, then I would simply take my bees, transfer them from the nucleus hive into this hive. On top of that would go a feeder. This will be filled with sugar water. And then this board called the inner board goes on top of that to allow for ventilation. And then my copper top would go directly on top of this. But let's just pretend it's months down the road. So once the first deep hive gets working, and we're about 3/4 filled with brood and honey for the bees, I will take off the feeder and I will now add a second home for them. These are both deeps, and again, 8 frames. Now we'll put the feeder on top of that. Very possibly we may not need it after the first month, but we will cover what you see here with the inner board and then put on our beautiful copper top. Well, let's just say that it's sometime in June, maybe early July, and both of these, what honey? And both of these are now 3/4 filled. Then we would go ahead and put the next part on, and this is called the queen excluder. And the queen excluder is designed to do exactly what the name implies. It prevents the queen from coming up any higher than this. She'll continue to lay eggs down low. Workers will continue to make honey for the bees, continue to make new babies. But this is where my honey is going to be manufactured, anything above that. This is called a medium super, and a super is wherever a beekeeper will get his or her honey. As you can see, the frames are a little bit more shallow. These are 8-frame supers. And once they start manufacturing honey up in here, I'll let them ride. When this is about 3/4 filled, then I'll add my second super. This might be late July if I'm guessing correctly. Notice the queen excluder stays right in place. And then on top of that will go my inner board, again for protection and ventilation. And lastly, our beautiful copper top. It's a telescopic top, so it creates space at the back and space in the front for ventilation. And there we have it. It's an 8-frame hive with 2 hive bodies that are deep and 2 medium supers. That's how you put your equipment together.